Welcome to the Awesome Business Podcast with your host, Ryan McPartlin. Guys, I've spent 25 years in the entertainment industry, best known as Captain Awesome from NBC's Chuck, or that guy from the Hallmark and Lifetime Christmas movies. The best part of my job is meeting a whole lot of extraordinary people from awesome businesses. That's what this podcast is about. I want you to meet and learn from these people too. We're going to pull back the curtain on actors, athletes, and entrepreneurs and the obstacles they overcame to star in their own success story. So join me and unleash your awesome. Guys, in this two-part episode, we are so lucky to have Sarah Drew join us today. She's a busy woman. She's an actor, she's a writer, she's a producer. You might know her as Dr. April Kepner from Grey's Anatomy, that little show that's been running a few years. I know her as Candace from Twinkle All the Way, the Lifetime Christmas movie we did. But she now has Mistletoe Murders on Hallmark Plus, the new streaming service for Hallmark. She's amazing. You know, when we worked together, it was like theater camp. I learned so much from her, and I can't wait for you guys to learn the same. Sarah, you really need no introduction. Let's just be honest. Everyone
anyway
who knows me knows Sarah Drew and Twinkle All the Way, because I mean, I'm not supposed to say this, but it's my favorite Christmas experience ever.
Aww.
You know, of doing a movie. And I know you're not supposed to say it, but I know it's yours too. But I'm gonna.
It was one heck of a ride. That is for sure. We had so much fun. I laughed so hard on that shoot.
Let's get into that in a second. First of all, congratulations. Number one.
Buddy.
Hallmark Plus, Mistletoe Murders. I'm so proud of you. I love what you're doing on there. And I could see the work you're doing. I know that it isn't like, listen, we all know a movie, a TV series is a collaboration. But I know the effort you put in, and we'll get into that. And I could see how hard you work to get it to a place that it is really elevated. I have to say, I didn't know what to expect. And you should be very proud that they launched Mistletoe Murders as the first project.
I mean, it was like for Christmas, but like they launched it with Lacey Chabert's Celebrations. That was like a big, that was the big launch. And Chicken Sisters.
And Chicken Sisters, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
And then
First Christmas, okay, the first original Christmas series, First
original Christmas series, yeah. And then Holidays just dropped with one of my besties, Erin Cahill. And it's really fun. I just started watching it too. So they've got some really fun content on this.
I think that's the one that my friend Jason Flaherty, a little plug for Jason, who wrote Color Murder for Hallmark with me. His sister-in-law, I want to say, created Holidays.
Really?
Yeah, I think I want to say that's the one. I know there's one that's upcoming. So, little plug for Jason. There you go, buddy.
There you go. I've heard of Jason Flaherty. You've mentioned
I know.
him
We've talked
many times.
We've talked Jason Flaherty. But listen, for everybody who doesn't know right now, and this is the Awesome Business Podcast, and Sarah Drew has been in the awesome business for many, many years. We won't age ourselves. But you have had
on the internet.
Yes, you have had an extensive career. Everwood, Grey's Anatomy, a signature role for you that a lot of people, I know when we were working together and we were in the hospital, everybody's like, you inspired me to get into the medical profession.
Oh, right, I forgot. We were working at an actual nursing school.
Yes.
I think. And there were so many nursing students. Yeah, I remember going and like saying hey and taking pictures with a whole bunch of nursing students. Yeah, that was really sweet. I totally forgot about that.
I mean, it was so cool for me to sit back and see. I might have inspired people to do some Abercrombie clothes and and get into spandex and work out. But you inspired people to really make a difference in the world and become medical professionals. They were inspired by you. They were inspired by the difference you made and the job you did on that show.
It's the craziest thing too. I wouldn't be able to count how many times I've met fans who, especially women, who are like, I'm in the medical field because of that show.
That's incredible.
I'm a doctor because of that show. I'm a nurse because of that show. I'm going into pediatrics because of that show. It's just like, it's bananas.
It is bananas. It's great. It's great bananas.
It's good bananas. It's a banana
It's good
split.
bananas. That is exactly what that is.
A celebratory banana.
Oh my God. We pick up right where we left off. It's so good. It's so good. Well, the purpose of this podcast was to just go ahead and give people a peek behind the curtain. What the reality is of getting into a business as amazing as ours, but also as challenging as ours, and how they can adapt lessons for their business as well and for the things they do. And we talk a lot. We talk about our obstacles. We laugh about our obstacles. We cry about our obstacles together. But it's tough. And you've done something that is, I think, hard to do. When you get to a certain level in your career and you are known as an actress and an amazing actress that you are, how is it that you made the decision to pivot and do a little bit of writing as well?
The year before my final year on Grey's, I had gotten the rights to a book. I was interested in dipping my toe into producing and just sort of, I got kind of tired of waiting for the right scripts to come along and I just wanted to be more in the driver's seat.
Mm-hmm.
And I pitched this one book, or of course nothing ever came of it, but I was pitching it around town and met with the producer. And as I was pitching, he's like, this sounds really great and we should talk about this more. But right now I'm doing this other movie and would you consider playing one of the leads in it? And I was like, could I be an executive producer? And he was like, yeah. And I had the most incredible experience. That was the movie Indivisible, working as an executive producer. And I discovered about myself that there are a lot of actors, executive producers, kind of a random.
Yes, a lot of people can get that title. A lot of people can get that title.
100 different things.
Mm-hmm.
The way that I like to be an executive producer is I like to be inside of all of the creative decisions. I like to help cast. I like to give notes on scripts.
I remember.
Well.
I know.
Yeah, I love to be behind the monitor, even when I'm not in front of the camera, and like thinking about performance and giving thoughts and ideas. I like to be a part of picking out music and the cuts as they're coming together and trimming them down or bringing them to life in whatever kind of way I envision as well. So I discovered on that I really loved being behind the scenes. As I came back from that project, I reached out to Debbie Allen, who was in charge of all the directing at Grey's Anatomy. And I was like, look, I'm interested in jumping into the director track because I got bit by the director bug while I was producing. And she let me do this web series. They had a web series they were going to do for the year called Grey's Anatomy B-Team. And so I got to direct this 6-episode, little tiny itty-bitty episodes series for the show during my last year on the show. And then it was nominated for an Emmy. So I got to like go to the Emmys with it and stuff. And all of this has just sort of kept sparking more and more excitement and interest. And then the writing thing really started on Twinkle All the Way because it was with...
By who? Who would have given you that kind of idea?
That's why you asked the question.
Yeah,
like,
well, it was a leading question.
Get it back to Ryan
back to
McPartlin.
me.
Well, you and I were on set having a ball and talking, and you had all these ideas too about producing and like coming up with holiday slates. And you're like, we could do this. We could just jump into this. We could, why not? I mean, there's so much excitement for this genre. And like, so you were so pumped about it. And working with Steph and Margaret, who Stephanie
our producers,
and our producers on Twinkle All the Way, I had such an incredible time with that whole crew. And Brian Herzlinger, of course, who was our director.
And Herzlinger also had his kids there. So he gave us the freedom to go, hey, I've got my kids. If you guys want to like tweak the scenes at all, go for it. And then we'll run it before during run through, basically during rehearsal.
Well, we sent him all of our tweaks that were not like saying, I won't do the scene unless you do these tweaks, but just like, hey, we were like talking through the scenes and we were feeling like maybe it would sound a little more honest if it came out in this way. And he was amazing about it and was like,
it was very collaborative. I mean,
super collaborative.
For a director, that was one of the best experiences of saying, how would it roll off of your tongue?
Yeah.
You know, it's not like we're changing the structure of the scene, but how would it roll off your tongue and make it your own? And then, of course, he and Megan, his wife, had plenty of notes of like, let's go back and forth, or we have to make sure it goes this direction and not that one. And it was great.
And then we were just able to kind of keep the magic going, and we were all working together to elevate what was already beautiful.
Yeah.
And just to make it even more tasty, you know?
Yeah.
So that was really fun. And so I left that movie going, I want to come up with an idea for a Christmas movie and pitch something and be an executive producer on it and star in it, whatever. And I came up with this idea, and I pitched it to Steph and Margaret. And I was like, so we probably should just hire a writer for it, right? And they were both like, no, you need to write it. Go home and buy Final Draft. They said, you've just pitched it to us and we can see the whole movie play. Like, it's so clear in your brain, and you read scripts for your entire life. You know what works. You know how story flows. You can do it. You can be a writer. I mean, and I got to tell you, like, if those two women hadn't been like, we believe in you, and we will be with you every step of the way, go do it. Do not hire somebody else. You do it.
How hard was it to get past that first blank page?
Well, the harder part was coming up with the outline. The outline took more time for me, but I had like a 15-page outline. So, and I'd already, in the outline, I'd written little chunks of dialogue that I was already imagining. So the way that my process works as a writer, as so far, it may shift and change, but I spend a lot of time banging my head against a wall to come up with like the beats and the structure of the story and who the people are to each other and the arc and stuff like that. The broader strokes. And then once I have a really clear outline, the writing is so fast for me. I can write dialogue like that. It is so
that's so great.
For me.
And that's how it's supposed to be. You're doing it the right way.
Yeah, I don't get stuck or hung up in the scenes themselves. Because I have a very clear, I can hear each person, I can see them, I know who they are to each other. And that's, I think, all just like actory stuff from being an actor for so long. I think you just kind of have an inherent understanding of moving through a scene. But it's really the stuff that kills me is structure and making sure I hit all the beats that higher ups want me to hit and stuff like that.
The strong act outs where you got to you got to make sure the audience comes back after the commercial. So you got to leave a little hook going into the commercial.
If I could just write a script that's just really lovely scene after lovely scene after lovely scene, but there's no reason why the next one comes, that would be my cup of tea. It's just the movies don't really work like that.
No.
There has to be a reason why I'm moving from point A to point B to point C.
Well, especially in this day and age right now, because we're competing with AI. We're going to be competing with AI, the AI is going to learn more and more. But the problem is, and this is what I'm betting on, that the human element is what will always win, because it's to be able to tug at the heartstrings and do all the other things. AI is not going to be able to deliver that. It's going to give
maybe AI can help me with some structure.
Sure. And I'm fine with that. But the tugging of the heartstrings is going to be from human experience and things because think about it. When you promote something, everyone's asking, where'd you come up with the idea? Right? Am I wrong about that?
No, they always ask.
Yeah, where did you come up with Reindeer Games? That was the
first one.
The first one you wrote, yeah.
Reindeer Games, basically, so my husband Peter went to Dartmouth. He actually also teaches at Dartmouth now as well. But they have this thing called Winter Carnival every winter where all of the different, I think it's maybe frat houses, sorority houses, or maybe it's all the different students have teams, and they build like giant ice structures, and they have like human dog sled races, and they do a polar bear plunge, and all these activities in the middle of winter in New Hampshire. So it's very, very, very cold. So they do it in like February or something. But I've been there for it. I went years ago when he was teaching there. I visited over like Valentine's Day weekend, and I remember visiting him and seeing all of these activities, and they're so fun, and it brings the whole community together, and it's just, and they've been doing it for like 100 years. I mean, it's been in practice for a long time. Maybe not 100, but a long time.
We'll go with it.
Sure. But I was like, what if I set something like the Winter Games at Christmas in a small town and made it about, raising money to do something good in the community or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're competing. And then that was sort of the spark of the idea.
Like a turkey trot at Christmas type thing, like activities that,
Yeah. But that it's, for me, like Christmas, when I think about Christmas, it's all about, it's family and community, and it's my faith. It's like those things, right? And so I've always said that my community is my oxygen. I can't live without my community. And so all of my scripts really have some sense of community coming together, you feeling less alone, you feeling like somebody feeling like a part of something instead of being kind of a lone wolf. And it all kind of happening around Christmas time. I like to ground my stuff that I write because I want to tell something that matters to somebody, that makes somebody go, oh, I see that, I get that. So anyway, it started with the Winter Games, and then it was about community, and then I wanted to tell a story about grief and about moving through grief, especially during the holidays, which I think a lot of people can relate to, because especially if they've lost a family member, that first Christmas, all those firsts that happen in the wake of losing someone, that's a very relatable story. So it was a story about, rekindling an old flame and some healing there and moving through grief and the importance of community, with the backdrop of a really fun, full community Winter Games situation.
When we're talking about your faith, and I love that, by the way, and you did such a great job, and kudos to you for just, nailing it right on the first go of your script. And I remember when you told it to me, I was like, I put it through my filter, and I was like, oh, I've heard all the notes from Hallmark and Lifetime, and you got to hit this beat, that beat. And you're like, it was like we're right back in the diner, which we're going to have to talk about, because you're like, no, that's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this, and that. I'm like, oh, she knows the story she's going to tell already. She knows, and she's going to do it. And you did it, and you did a great job of it. And I feel like I admire that so much of you, of how you really stick to what you believe in and what you feel, and that faith. And it's not just faith in your religion, and it's faith in yourself and faith in what you believe is true and right. And you can back it up, which is very good, because on the page, you really backed it up, and on screen too. So tell me where you find that, like, because you've been outspoken on a lot of matters that you can really piss off both sides. And, the non-religious community, the religious community, the left, the right, whatever you want to call it, you do such a good job of being able to stick to your values and what you feel is true and right. And is that a practice? Where do you find that? Like, give us some tips, give us some advice.
I think that it's also constantly evolving. I think the biggest lesson I learned early in my career is that I'm not here to tell anybody how to live or what to believe. And I think I signed kind of at the beginning, because I grew up in a very like a more conservative sort of background, and I walked into Hollywood with this mission of like,
oh yeah, you told me a little of this. Yes.
Yeah, they need to know God's love,
Yeah.
And early on, I remember this one, I was doing a play in London, and I was having experiences of anxiety and a panic attack, which I hadn't really experienced before in my life. And I was stressed out. And this woman that I'd gotten to know that I really loved, but also like lived a very different kind of life than I did, sat me down, and she walked me through this like gorgeous meditation about walking down to the river and knowing that the river is going to protect me, and put your arms inside the boat and you know that you're going to be okay, and you breathe through it. And it was a very transformative moment for me, because I was like, I thought I had the answers. This little like 21-year-old, Joan of Arc.
Love that. That's the beauty of youth. That's the beauty of youth. I wish I knew everything still.
Thought I knew everything. And instead, I was being told to sit down and shut up and get really curious about everybody else's experience. And it was in that moment that I was like, oh my gosh, this woman that leads a very different life than I do is teaching me something that I need to learn.
Empathy.
And I don't have anything to teach her in this moment. She's teaching me.
Yeah.
And it burst my faith and the way that I was sort of perceived whatever my job was in this industry from black and white into just every shade of color. That moment was so transformative to me. And so I really have walked through this world going, what are the things I care about the most? I care about being a person of integrity. That's rooted in my faith, for sure. Saying I'm going to do something and then standing and then doing it. I believe very firmly in my own sense of being loved and belonging. And so the outpour of that for me is to, especially if I'm in any kind of leadership position, is to make sure everybody on that set feels like they're beloved and that they belong. And so that really does, it's as important a mantle for me to carry if I'm either number one on the call sheet or I'm an executive producer or a writer, whatever, that the experience of everybody working with me is so lovely, that they feel so loved. That stems from my faith because I feel so loved and I want to pour that out. And I mean, I'm gonna mess up at times. Obviously, I'm a human person, but that is sort of like, it is an engine that drives, and it's rooted in a very deep sense of being beloved and belonging, which comes from my faith. So I don't actually find that particular engine battles with too many sides. You get mad at someone who's just trying to care for you, But
the bots do. The bots come out, man.
I think
I feel like there are powers that be right now that try and divide us. And thank God for people like you who are empathetic and trying to bring everybody in and be inclusive. And it doesn't mean you agree with everyone's lifestyle or how the choices they make.
My curiosity about everybody's walk is I am so curious.
Yeah.
And I love hearing people's stories, and I love engaging with someone who lives a different life than I do. Like, it's only good to learn more. And because what are we doing here on this planet if we're not attempting to understand each other better, right? So, and trying to learn from one another and going, oh, that's a really amazing thing you just pointed out. I'm gonna take that and put that in my pocket. And that sounds like a really beautiful piece of wisdom that I'm going to take with me,
Yeah.
As soon as you turn off curiosity and you go into like preaching mode of like, this is what I know, and if you don't agree with me, you're wrong. You're dead in the water. There's nowhere to move forward in terms of community building, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because I think that as we grow in this business, there's a lot of different stages, and we could turn this into probably a 3-hour session right now. And it feels like a therapy session when I get to talk to you. But it really is like in the beginning, you're trying to prove yourself, right? You're trying to like find your voice and put your voice and put your stamp on Hollywood and the projects you audition for. And then as you get older, you start learning like, oh, it's what acting is about. It's listening and taking in somebody else. And that's why I feel like, tears now come way too easily. Just talking about tears come way too easily because the empathy is so raw now and so real to everything that's going on and being a parent. But as you were talking, I thought about how I always avoided, like early on when I was playing the role of Captain Awesome on Chuck, I didn't want to be associated. No, I take it back. I didn't want to be typecast as the role Captain Awesome because I didn't want people to think that I was a little bit too big and a little too cheesy. And then I realized I am a little big and I am a little cheesy. But you know what I learned about it was that Captain Awesome, and this is why the role found me, is that I think that he just wanted everyone to succeed. He rooted for people.
He enabled people to be their best selves.
Yeah.
I mean, such a
it got him in trouble, too.
Character to play.
Yeah, and I realized I do that, too, and to a fault. You can ask my kids now. I'm like, hey, let's go. Are we gonna play in the NFL? What are we doing? Are we playing in the NBA? Or are we gonna graduate top of our class? Let's plan it out and do the whole mission. Yeah. They're like, can I just be a kid?
Can I just let me be, Dad?
And I'm like, oh yeah, okay. So then it became my role to take the anxiety off, take the pressure off, and that was my thing of going like, hey, but yeah, the empathy. Just going back to you and what
I think that is like one of the deepest joys that I experience as an actor is that every single character I play is another lesson in empathy. Because you're taking on another story, you're taking on another person with another set of circumstances who might make decisions that you wouldn't make, and you have to unconditionally love that person. Mm-hmm. Because nobody makes a decision in a vacuum without having some reason why they're making a decision, right? So you can't walk into a scene and be like, I hate that my character's doing this, but I guess I'll play it. It doesn't work. You have to find a way in. You have to find the beating heart behind why is she thinking this way? What has caused her to go down this path? And just that practice of figuring that journey out makes you look at other people with that same level of like, where did that come from? Like, what led you from point A to point B to point C to make that choice? And generally, it's a very human reason that you really can empathize with or connect to in some way. Because, unless you're just playing, there's shows out there where people are completely irredeemable and it's very, very difficult.
Well, listen, I just did the Amish Affair, and thank God I was an executive producer, and I said, I kind of used what you're talking about. I said, listen, I need to find a way in, and I had to do it with a different view of religion. Yeah. I had to do it like take this character and do that where it was still coming from a loving place. And I think that added a layer that you're talking about, and it's why you're so layered as an actor. And so, you don't phone anything in. And that term, we hear it all the time. But
crazy too, because I have to make it make sense.
I won't. This is a perfect place to talk about.
I won't step on set. I cannot physically make it through a scene if I can't make it make sense.
Yeah, I love it so much because this is a perfect segue into like we shot one scene on Twinkle All the Way.
Before.
Oh, a whole week before.
We shot a whole week before we had that session.
You're right, but yeah. I didn't. My material wasn't as heavy as yours at that week.
Yes.
So. But I do remember two things about that. I remember one, Brian Sills, who, God, I can't wait to have Brian Sills on. And we're going to have a whole reunion on here.
I'm so excited. Do you know, he told me, I just like, he got to tell me right when I got to Toronto to shoot Mistletoe Murders, we had a dinner and a bottle and a half into, did we, no, we only shared one bottle of rosé. Bottle into the
rosé. I love its rosé too.
Half a bottle into the rosé. He has buried the lead for like 2 hours already. He's like, oh, by the way, I just got cast as Timon in the sit-down production of Lion King. And I was like, I burst into tears. I was so excited for him. I could not handle my life. I was like,
He is the best. It was so funny because thank God Brian Herzlinger brought him on board. Because when I first walked on set, I go, "This is my brother. There's a little height difference between us. So what was Dad looking like? What's happening here?" And I swear to God, within the first line that he delivered, I go,
so good.
He's genius. He's genius.
He's so good.
It was the pudding on the bed.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, where Mom wasn't eating the pudding, and he goes, whatever, and he just starts eating pudding,
shoveling in his mouth. Yeah,
and I'm like, God, I hope we have more of those because there's a lot more takes. He's like, I made a commitment to eating the pudding now. He's so good, and it was such a great. The three of us together had so much fun that I didn't expect because I think. Usually when I'm coming into doing a Christmas movie, it's like I had a show canceled or a pilot that didn't go. So I was available for a Christmas movie. So sometimes I'm like, oh man, got to go to Toronto now. And what's this going to be like? I don't even know if I've read the whole script because you get it, the job, literally I got that job 2 days before I was flying up there. And I'm reading the script on the plane going, there's a lot of lines to memorize. So I'm going to have to really figure this out. And thank God, and I'm going to let you tell this story, that you were like, hey, we got some big scenes coming up. Can we talk over breakfast at the diner downstairs? Sure. Yeah, I got an hour.
9 hours later, we sat, to be fair, we were working on the script, and then there'd be like dance breaks.
Yes.
And then we had to get food.
Well, we were going to get blood clots in our legs if we didn't have dance breaks.
But it was so fun. It
was so fun. And it was fun to not agree with you. Like that, It was fun in a way that I've never been frustratedly fun with somebody.
Thank God Brian was so okay with it too, because that might have been really annoying to get our notes.
Yeah. But we knew their hands were full. So I think they were grateful. They had young children that were there.
By the way, like grateful that we cared.
Yes.
That we
100%.
really cared about it. That we were just like, this is such a fun story. And I think we can add even more magic to it.
Yeah.
And
magic bumps. Magic bumps.
Not magic bumps.
Christmas bumps.
Magic bumps. No.
It's been a while.
Ryan,
we're going to have to watch it again. We're going to have to watch Twinkle All the Way again. Magic bumps.
Yes, but it was definitely it was like the sun came up and then went down.
Yes. I was like, holy cow. I thought I was going to go all I want to do is a bike ride. Remember? All I want to do is a bike ride. You're like, no. But at some point, you're like, there's no bike ride today.
There's no bike ride happening. Brian Sills went to have a whole meal with somebody and then came back and found us still there.
You're still here.
Yeah.
It was the late nights, the dance parties.
Oh my gosh.
Everything that I didn't do. I always said that I didn't have a theater camp experience, and that was my theater camp.
Totally theater camp.
Yeah, that was 100%. It. That was my summer stock.
I had these movies these 3-week-long TV movies, they're so short, right? And my whole philosophy is that if I've said yes to something, I'm going to show up with my whole heart.
Yep.
And do everything I can to bring as much magic to it behind the scenes and in front of the camera because, it's grown-up camp. It's so fun if you choose to have fun,
It was
so fun.
We did music videos. I mean, we did full productions. And when I think about it, we didn't have much time to do that, but we still made it happen because it was energy.
Our three personalities were all sort of like game for anything.
Yeah.
And you especially are like really on, okay, what are we doing for social? And so there was just that was really helpful to have a captain. And then there's oh, well, we're going to do something. We obviously have to do something. What are we going to do?
I'm hearing some laughter.
I don't think you're taking this seriously.
I think you're taking this way too seriously.
Let's talk
So
about
fun.
then the best moment for me that I still look at these to this day. And I don't know if people realize that if you go in overtime on a production, it costs not just thousands of dollars, it costs tens of thousands of dollars
A lot of
sometimes.
money.
And so there's a lot of pressure when you're at the end of the day and everybody's on the clock and you got to nail the scene. And that moment, and I'm hopefully going to be able to
breaking down and laughing uncontrollably.
the uncontrollable laughter.
I've
And
never experienced anything like that on the set in my
it
life.
went on. I think we went overtime by at least 6 to 10 minutes because I could not.
You could not get your shit together.
Well, it started with me kissing the air, because my daughter had to leave.
Kiss your daughter, but she was off the clock, and then you did like an air kiss to a fake person.
Honey, why is that?
Because, sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Wow.
We got this.
She loves it.
Oh, honey. That was the thing that set me up. I'm great.
All right.
Guys.
We got it. Just go off her line.
I'm just going to say my line, and I'm going to have my shit together.
Okay, good.
Ready?
Let's go, Sarah.
I swear to God, I got it. Just, can you not look at me at all? I just don't want him on set. Can you not even give me the line?
Okay.
Let me just take it and look at you. Where's my miming?
On camera.
I was like,
Nobody's gonna show your face fake kissing an air person.
I would still commit to it. Like I'd make the noise, and I don't know if I thought in my head. And by like the fourth time, you're like, "Can you please not kiss an air person?" And I was like, "Oh no!" I was like, because in my mind, I was like, "Is that somebody's cue?" The mwah, and I didn't know if it was the tickle to the back of the hair cue. And I kept seeing Brian's face every time that Mark would tickle up, and I go, oh, my God. And then, but we did also make a little bit of TV history in that moment with all the laughing and everything else. It was fantastic because Mark and Brian had the first on-screen male couple kiss, you know?
Yeah.
So
that was pretty awesome.
for a Christmas movie.
Yeah,
so,
and it wasn't even scripted. We just
wasn't
it felt
scripted.
Right. Just felt right in the moment.
And you know what's great? It was Mom's reaction to seeing me happy and seeing Brian's happy. So it was so wonderful. In part 2 with Sarah Drew, she's going to tell us what she would do differently if she was starting in the business today, the impact of social media, and not just the entertainment industry, but on every industry, and her new show, Mistletoe Murders on Hallmark Plus, and how she developed her leadership qualities as an executive producer through simply being curious. So don't miss part 2 with Sarah Drew, wherever you download or watch The Awesome Business with Ryan McPartlin. Thanks for listening, everyone. If you liked what you heard, it would mean a lot if you took 2 seconds and left a 5-star review. Hit that follow or subscribe button for future episodes and share with as many friends as possible. Because business can be tough, but together, we can be a little more awesome.